Even back up a little bit here. So my face isn't covering the whole screen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's Monday, and we're kind of having these last minute things doing, and it's just, life is full of change right now, so we're all kind of negotiating it. And, it's as we're going into these planets that are retrograding, Mercury's going into its shadow work. There's this dance of Venus in her shadow work. So be careful of the monies, be careful of how you're thinking about things. And, it's like my astrologer said this morning, it's an inner planet. So it's about doing that inner work that we're supposed to be doing. So today's conversation is about how important is our shadow work. And I'm Natasha Venter. I'm a multi-life intuitive. I'm a spiritual life coach. I also am one who is a medium who really supports doing this work through my energy seeing, feng shui, house clearings and blessings. I love to just bring people up into a new understanding of themselves so that they can do better with who they are. That's a perspective that I've gotten through being a multi-life intuitive. Past lives, Akashic records, whatever it is. I dance in animal communication. So I'm here to support and love and do it with non-judgment. So here on the show, Regan Forston is my partner in this loving dance of ours with this Dance of the Soul today. And hi, Regan, how you doing?
I'm doing great, thanks. Yeah, about 2 3/4 years almost that we've been doing this now. We're getting old on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Had a lot of fun. It's been great, and it's been a big growth thing for both of us doing the show and for people watching the show. We have some regulars that chime in all the time. We look forward to seeing, and every once in a while, somebody just happens to be on the internet at this particular time right now, and they'll see us live, or people will see us when you put them up online. We get quite a few hits where people look at the show at their convenience, when it's not live, but at another time. So if you're on
Exactly.
YouTube or anything, feel free. You can comment on the things we're saying. You can add to the discussion, and it makes it really fun. A lot of our regulars do that, which is great. My name is Regan Forston, and I'm with the Newton Institute, certified as what we call the Life Between Life facilitator. And I'm also with the Dolores Cannon School of Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Short story on it, you can find out at visittheafterlife.com there, but we found a way to have you go into a deep state of relaxation, which about 90% of people can reach. And in there, we found out we all have this ability to flip a little, I call it a God switch, and you get to spend a couple hours in the afterlife. It's kind of like having a near-death experience without the death part, which we always joke about. But we've done it with about 70,000 people. And it's a way, just like when Natasha does the same thing by you having a session with her, she can answer questions that get you answers to things you're not able to see, but she is, because she has that talent. And what I do, we find out everybody has that talent, but in order for you to do it, you have to go, take some time, go deep in trance, and get the answers that way. So we're both life coaches and common sense people. So we've learned a lot with helping people, just the earthly common sense of things you have to do to get through your issues. And today, as a topic that's real dear to me, because it was my awakening that kind of happened. I was spiritually awake at an early, in my 20s, I started realizing I'm more than just this body, and I started studying alternate religions, and that led to a religious path that taught me a spiritual exercise that opened me up to having out-of-body experiences occasionally. And those were so real and so great that I continued that, onward. There's a point, though, when you're spiritually developing, your shadow, as we call it, begins to show.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't like to look at our shadows. People go, what is shadow work? Natasha can probably add to this. I just basically say all these, when we have issues and problems, I feel like each problem is like a brick on our back. And the more problems and issues we have that we haven't dealt with or looked at or taken care of, it's like junk piling up in your house. And pretty soon you're a hoarder because you can't move around in there because you got so much stuff that you haven't cleaned or cleansed. So shadow work is basically finally saying, enough's enough. I'm brave enough now. To kind of turn around and look at all those things face on and to start one by one taking those bricks and throwing them away. And in a little bit, we'll talk about the benefits of doing that, which are many. It's like a life changer, as it was for me when I started to be brave enough to do that. And Natasha, why do you think it is that we all have this aversion to looking at our shadows? You know, it's so hard for some people. We just want to bury everything and say, well, we'll take care of it later, or we don't want to think about our,
Well, if you go back to like as I was tuning in just then about, you go back to, the primal times, when we were in survival mode, when we were in, the times of, fighting your neighbor, cavemen times, the times in England where, you were, if you were less than, you were, diminished. And many of us were taught that if we stayed in those emotions, that we weren't survivable.
mm,
We had to teach ourselves not to go there. Well, if you come forward in time, that you come into, let's say, in this land, well, there was a lot of death. There was a lot of death on this planet between the wars, tribal wars, caveman wars, and then you had, in the 1700s, you had a lot of death and piracy, and both on land and in water, things like that. And so when you look at it, that when you have a lot of death and a lot of grief, if you spend much time in that emotion, many times you can go insane. So people would they were so much into survival mode that they wouldn't go there. Well, after generations of that, then it turned into shame. If you looked into yourself, it became shameful. Why are you thinking that? That happened 10 years ago. What are you doing with that?
yeah,
That kind of that story that we tell our family members about how, that, like the childhood thing of, a child is meant to be seen, not heard, and how much shame comes into that story, because you can't, if you're hearing your parents fight, and then you can't say anything about it, and then that sits there and just smolders, and then it's one of those things. It's kind of like, why is the minister or the priests, or the minister's children, some of the ones that are the most rebellious, because they're told that they are supposed to be religious and loving and kind, and oh crap, but half the time that those families were some of the most dysfunctional families, right?
yeah. Well,
And
yeah,
and so how do you negotiate that when you're told one thing, but you're living another?
yeah.
And then that turns into shame and guilt and a lot of those kind of stuff. So, and it's hard to look at those things.
Yeah, and through most of our society, and most of the religions that people belong to and everything, there's the shame that comes along with when we miss the mark, or we call it sin or missing the mark or whatever. And there's always um, this shame that's put with it that makes us have to, and nobody likes to feel like we're not a good person, even though we do things a lot of times that aren't perfect, or we do things to hurt people and everything. We don't really want to see ourselves as that kind of person, and it's kind of hard to look in the mirror and say, you know I'm that kind of person sometimes,
Yeah.
but and we try to just look at the positive, that way, because in most families or most people, as you find out walking around, and you and I both see that as therapists, that our clients and stuff like that, and just like us walking around, everybody think we're happy-go-lucky, everything's going good and things like that. But behind those doors, closed doors, so many people, almost everybody, is fighting things that are falling apart, or things where their character is imperfect.
Hmm.
So what you and I try to do, and what the benefit, don't you think, Natasha, from us doing the spiritual work, is we really find out that nobody needs to be ashamed. I mean, we make mistakes and everything like that, but you have to realize that that's part of the course. It's like taking a college course. I mean, it would be a rare thing to have a professor that would have a student and that would know everything in the class from the very beginning, and what didn't need to learn anything in the class, or didn't need to get anything less than an A. You know, I mean, we kind of know how to live this life, but most of us feel like if we got a report card, the shadow work, when you think about that, you'd say, oh gosh, I got like a D minus or something, I got maybe A minus in this category. I'm pretty good in here, but I don't want to look at those things that are C's or D's, on my report card, because it hurts to look at my imperfect self. So
It really does. And many of these things are painful. I know that when I was down in California, I had a really wonderful girlfriend who supported me through one of my moments of shadow work. And I didn't really put it out there on social media yet, that because it wasn't, because I was doing actions that could have been judged, and I didn't want to be judged in the moment of my my work that I was doing. And with that, it was about, how do I communicate with myself? How do I fit in that shame? How do I fit in that? But I was grateful that I went, and that's one thing that I have learned doing a lot of my deep work, is to go into gratitude for it. That
yeah.
is one of the hardest things to do sometimes, is go into the gratitude moment, especially when, you got somebody who's saying, Natasha, did you really say that? Oh, yeah. And then they would say, I know that wasn't your intention, but you did say this.
hmm
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm human too. Okay. How can I clean up, like that mantra? I'm not doing anything wrong, but how can I do something a little different to shift up this situation? And so, I think that that's one of those mantras that I really enjoy using, is that I'm not doing anything wrong, but I can change something. I can do something different, because the fact that it doesn't shame me into saying that you're bad, you're da, 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 but there's something I can do a little different. So let's say if I know somebody has a trigger, that they get triggered by something that the person does naturally. Well, you're not doing anything wrong, but yet there's something you can do by communicating a little differently, or enlightening the moment, or whatever it is. And so with that there's those things that we can do just a little different to shift up the differences that we're in.
Yeah. So there's some practical ways of doing shadow work. For those of you listening, if you go to Google and you go shadow work books, there's some pretty darn good books on there. There's like a lot, so I won't mention them all, but you can find them on there. Some of them even have workbooks that help you go step by step through it. But it's pretty much taking inventory of yourself, just to seeing, like being able to look at your dysfunction. And the first thing Natasha and I would really like you to do is maybe practice some self-love before you start. In other words, forgiving yourself for your indiscretions. That's kind of a basis you want to start with. Just saying, being honest with yourself, say, look, I know I'm perfectly imperfect, because I love your saying again there, and realizing you're perfectly imperfect, and you do make mistakes, and everybody has bricks on their shoulder. They have regrets. They have things they've said they wish they hadn't. They've done mean things to people, and they wish they hadn't. They've not stepped up to the plate in their life like they have, and they have all these guilts and things. So first thing, it's funny, Natasha, just how spirit works. I got sent today the perfect thing. You know how I tell everybody to do the I love you exercise looking in the mirror? There's a great guy in there, and he's got a really good technique, and it's all about fixing the neural pathways in your mind, and it starts with, and it's really good. It's like, for the first exercise I would tell you to do before you start your shadow work is to look in the mirror and do what we call the I love you exercise. And something about, if you use a lot of people do it when they're brushing their teeth, and you want to do it with, if you're right-handed, you want to use your left hand. I'm not sure if you're left-handed, if you use your right hand, but I think it has to do when you're doing movement with your left hand, it's activating. It's
the other side of the brain.
Right. So what you're doing is you're brushing your teeth, is you say 3 times, I love you, I love you, I love you, and you take, deep breath and let it out, and just look as you can in your eyes again as you're brushing your teeth. I love you, I love you, I love you. Do that about 5 or 6 different times like that. I love you, I love you, I love you. Keep brushing your teeth or whatever. And then when you're done with that, you want to take some quick breaths, about 25, just, breathing in, breathing out about 25 times, and then do the breathing thing about 25 times at breakfast, in the afternoon around lunchtime and in the evening that way. And people that have done that have been talking about miracles that have happened where they begin to look at themselves and not look at themselves with such disdain sometimes, or with such shame.
Mm-hmm.
Just look at yourself, and you may have to feel like you're faking it for a while because part of you doesn't love yourself and thinks you're a bad person. But you're retraining your subconscious that way to, when it sees an image of you or you think about yourself, to actually be like a person that did something bad, and then in your heart you forgave them, and then that relationship builds again with that person, but you're doing it with yourself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, and you might have a technique too. How would you tell a person to begin self-love? In other words, to uh, start that thing saying, look, I know I'm imperfect. Well, first thing would be to get them going around doing the mantra to the day, I'm perfectly imperfect.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, exactly. I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm doing the better I can. I'm perfectly imperfect. I'm doing the better I can. But there's also this thing that sometimes when we look in the mirror and we want to look in our eyes, it's really hard to say, I love you,
Mhm.
right?
Oh
And
boy.
so start saying, hey, hand, I love you. Thank you for grabbing onto things.
Hmm.
Hey, foot,
Hmm.
thank you for walking forward with me, and you start, I love you, start getting these other parts of your body that can be a little bit more like even if you have to, when you're looking in the mirror and you're pretty good about certain things, say, hi, nose, I love you, because that's between your eyes, right?
Right.
Hi,
Yeah.
eyebrows, I love you. So you're getting closer to your eyes. And if you can come up and really look into yourself and say, you know what? And it's not about seeing your hair. It's not about seeing your face. It's not about seeing anything else, but looking into your eyes and just saying, doing that soul work, I love you and I'm grateful for you.
I think that's a good way to build up to that, because some people, when they have to say, I love myself, or, look at them say, I love you. I mean, I am surprised how many people have difficulty doing that. So, but you can fool your subconscious. It's all about retraining your brain. You want it to be your subconscious to be on that page where
Mm-hmm.
when you think about yourself, you kind of, oh, that's a nice person or whatever. So it's really good what you just said, because that's a tricky way of like
Mm-hmm.
warming up to
Hey,
it.
hey, Nia, I so love you. Thank you for bending. Thank you for being here. Thank you for doing what you're
I
doing.
love that.
You've been amazing. And I'm gonna actually say I love you, Nee. Thank you for letting me dance 8 hours the other night. It's like, it's that, thank you. And I'm grateful for you. And I love you. And it's that, how do you negotiate this? But a lot of people, it's for many, it's hard to go from 0 to 100.
Yeah, I like that.
We have to, it's a journey. Life is about a journey. So if you have to, start at your toes and work your way up. I know I had to when I was in deep depression after my parents passed away. I had to start going up my body. And then finally I got up to my heart, and oh my gosh, my heart needed to be loved. Oh, it
Yeah,
had done so much work,
yeah,
and my lungs, thank you for breathing. And oh, thank you for breathing when I got triggered today. It's like, there's that dance of how do you do it. And many of us, we live with people who aren't very loving to us either. And so when we're doing our inner work that we're doing, we get triggered by the people outside of us. And sometimes we have to say, I love you in spite of this.
yeah, and
I
that's a good.
love this moment in spite of it. I'm grateful for this moment. And you can change up words, but there is something about getting to the point where you can say, I love,
Yeah,
because gratitude is a form of love, but it's not necessarily all the way. But when
yeah,
when we're saying we're grateful for a moment, it shifts it from us being a victim of a situation to being more proactive. And when we're in doing the shadow work, when we're doing those things that get triggered for with us, like me, going through the cleaning up my communication, right? And how I really discerned, I love that word, discerned, or learned where it is better for me to speak. So like if I've gone through a life altering experience or something that was really stressful, to be careful when I get intuitive insights. Have a little bit time to breathe around them, have a little bit more moment to do it instead of springing on them and being very human, right? Or discerning a little bit of how I negotiate when when I'm saying something clear that I think is clear, but making sure the other person, what did you hear? How did you hear that? And so I've been cleaning that up, but that was, whew. There was a couple of times where it was like, I don't want to hear this. The other person who I love so dearly, she's my sister from another mother, and she was telling me truths that I was meant to hear. My guides were wanting her to tell me because she's very intuitive, and we do intuitive work with each other. And they were wanting me to step up a little bit more into this life that I'm being led to lead, and that discerning me. And it was like, okay, I'm willing to hear this. Thank you. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm grateful. Yes, I'm listening. I'm listening. Oh, I'm grateful, because it was something that will later be in my back pocket for something that's greater.
Yeah.
And so how do we do this with our shadow work is that many times it's not easy to go through it, but the more you can stay out of victimhood of it, which is
Yeah.
not always easy.
It's a little tough to start with, but what I found, at least it was with me, that as you start doing that and you realize you feel a little lighter because you're
Mhm.
starting to get there, it actually becomes exciting work to do because you can feel how good you feel when you do it and you start feeling brave instead of that little weakling. But for someone, if you look in the mirror and you can't with enthusiasm say, I love you, that's giving you a hint that there's some shadow work to do. You know,
Yes.
so that could be a first step. And if you having a hard time there, like the exercise I mentioned, you can do and do like Natasha says about just loving every part of you. Just do the best you can for a little bit, and if it's hard, it's okay. But the first step is being brave enough to check yourself out, see how much that self love is there. You know.
Exactly. 'Cause and I will also want you to know that if you're going through a lot of shadow work right now, or then make sure that you keep up on your vitamins and your nutrition.
Yeah.
Because when we don't eat well, our B's and our D's and our A's and a lot of that scenario, supporting our adrenals, supporting our digestive system, that when we don't support the core of us, many times our emotions start being like a pinball machine. They get binging all over the place. And so to ground yourself a little bit more is to make sure that you take care of thy body that is going on. Like for me, I have another mantra that I'm digesting my life. Because
Yeah.
many times when you're getting shadow work done, it's hard to digest it metaphorically and spiritually and knowingly, mentally, right? And
Yeah.
so, and your digestive mind says, no. Your heart mind goes, and then your mind goes, what am I doing with this? And so if you can get one of you on board, it helps get the
Yeah.
others on board. And so there again is, doing that. I'm digesting my life. And a lot of times I go, I'm digesting my life. I'm digesting my life. I'm digesting my life. I'm digesting my life. So it's like bringing it down into that knowing. And I can tell you that the hardest thing about doing shadow work is the first moment it shows up.
Yeah. It's
Then
just
after that, it becomes a little bit more graceful, especially if you practice doing it. And there again, um, relieve yourself of being a victim of your shadow work.
yeah. Yeah, it is just getting once you get started, it's okay. Now, um, some of your issues that you have with yourself are huge, and some of them are little. And I find you can go either way. Like if you want to just kind of start the shadow work, pick just one of the little bricks or some of the stones that are on you, and kind of look at that and take care of that, and then go to the bigger stuff. Or some people are really brave and they try to they'll make here's what I have my clients do sometimes before I do regular therapy work with them. I have them get a go to the dollar store or something, just get a little notebook or pad, like
Mhm.
whatever, and you put a page on there and you put your name on there, and then you put your mother's name on another page, your dad, coworker, people that are in your life's play in a way.
Mhm.
And then when you're relaxed, maybe have a shower or something, relax, get in bed, put on some soft music, and what you're going to do is begin to take inventory of your issues. Okay, and so if I tell people, sometimes I use the tree analogy where your life is a forest of problems, And some of the trees are the giant redwoods, and they're the ones that zap your energy, the things you feel the most guilty about, the things you wish you never did. And then there's the pine trees, and then there's a bunch of little bushes. But that all adds up to a big yucca muck of,
Exactly.
yeah. So if they just do that one at a time, and they could start with themselves, and then they could just take a breath, maybe ask, even though if you're like Natasha can just see or talk to Gabe, I wonder what would be the angel to kind of call in there, the angel of self, or maybe you could, maybe I'm sure if you just said, okay, shadow work angel, there'll be somebody there or some energy that will maybe convert to kind of calm you and to help you to start the work or something like that. But don't you think it helps? Don't you do that? Sometimes when you're going through something difficult, is you ask for the car fixing angel or the
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. Parking lot angel,
right.
whatever. But I know that calling in Mother Mary,
Oh
she
yeah,
is amazing at just giving you a hug when you need it.
yeah,
Jesus is another one. They're not on pedestals. They're here. There are deities to help us. Archangel Michael is another one that likes to sit down and just say, I can see him actually sitting on a beach with you, and in those low seats, that you're on the beach in the sand and your feet are in the sand, and he's sitting here going, you know, Natasha. What you got a problem with is that you just don't want to look at yourself, huh? And this is Archangel Michael. I can just see him sitting here with you and your higher self talking, right?
yeah,
And then you got Raphael, who's the Reiki energy, and then you have Gabriel, who is the angel of communication. So, calling in the angel of communication to help you communicate with yourself is a little bit nicer too. And
yeah,
then, there's these beings who are really wanting to help, and we all have personal angels that can want to help us. So, call in, these support people and beings, and even sometimes we have, like, let's say, a cat in spirit who wants to sit on our lap to help us go through, because there's something about a cat's purr, that just kind of grounds you.
yeah.
You know,
The point is that and Natasha, I want you to know that you're not alone. We
yeah.
both know from personal experience that we each have a guide or guides, or
Hmm.
on the other side they want to help us. So even if you don't quite believe it, just kind of fake it till you make it a little bit and say, I don't know if you guys are really there. Those guys say you are, maybe you are, but even just doing that, you're going to start to realize you don't have to go through this alone. There's
Hmm.
somebody there with love supporting you, so you can turn around and look at the yucky stuff and put everything into perspective, forgive yourself for it, and heal yourself, that way.
Exactly. And when we're going through it too, please remember that, if you need to, pick a friend that you can really trust. Not every friend wants to hear you through your shadow work,
Yeah.
or find someone who you can trust, like, I know Regan here. Oh my gosh, you are one of the most kindest men I ever know. You really hold no judgment. And, people have said the same thing with me, that I don't really hold the judgment either. And so with that, pick people who you can communicate with, and find out. Sometimes it, like what people have said to me, Natasha, you have actually threaded so much in my life into one reason why. And then once I know that reason, then I can negotiate it a little bit better. And sometimes, when we're doing the shadow work, we don't know what's happening, because there's sometimes the emotion of,
Yeah.
and it doesn't have a name, right? And so how can we deal with emotions? And that's the thing, and that's why we're getting so many of our teens and younger people who are having anxiety and having these emotions that are overrunning, is because we haven't been taught as a society through many, many generations to deal with our emotions. And that is one of the things that why the planets right now are really calling up our shadow work,
Yeah.
and doing that. So if you can, Google, what does Venus have you working on in this retrograde? What is Mercury going to have you work on during this retrograde? Google some of these things that are just basic general information, and discern it back down to how it can be with you. because of the fact that, we are being triggered. There are things that are happening. And what is this here to teach me is another good mantra for this.
Yeah.
What is this here to teach me so that I'm proactive in it instead of being the victim of it?
Yeah. Now, some examples of shadow work could be like AA. When you go to AA, they have a routine that they go through there. A lot of people are familiar with that. But if you do the work in there, the people that do the work in AA and follow the steps they have in there, I've seen clients that have just been miraculous in there. And a
Mhm.
lot of it one of the steps you do in there, I don't want to scare anybody away from going to AA, but they're going to have you make a list of discretions you've done to people and one by one to go through and apologize to them. You know, it's hard to do for some people, but if you're ready to do the work, the benefits are you will free yourself up.
Mhm.
But that's so, and that's if you're getting somebody to help you, like if you have alcohol or drugs or addiction problems, and that's caused a lot of us to do a lot of bad things when we're in those addictions or something.
Exactly.
You can do shadow work on your own, but I will tell you from my experience, it helped me when I decided I wanted to do it. I decided I was going to be vulnerable, and then I found there's a few groups or organizations out there to help, especially men, to go through and begin to do shadow work. And what's nice when you're in one of these things, and one of the ones you can look up online, it's called the Mankind Project, and these are men that are devoted to help other men to do shadow work. And I'll tell you, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, even one of it's called New Warrior Training. I've talked about this maybe once or twice in the last 2 years, but I think about it a lot because it was like they knew what they were doing. I mean, it was like I went to kind of to hell and back over 3 days is one way of putting. But I was there to do the work. And when they took a picture of me of what I looked like when I went in, and right as I was leaving this 3-day thing they took a picture of me, put them side by side. I thought I was looking at two different men.
Wow.
How much I went down to the bottom of this mountain because we did this in a mountain retreat. Got down to
Mhm.
the bottom of this mountain to where the main roads were starting to come in. No one was around. And I mean, this is so weird. I've never done it in my life, but I got out and I kissed the ground right there. And I got back. I think it was some crazy guy, but it was that much difference. And it was this freeing thing of doing it. So if you check out the Mankind Project, they have men nationwide, actually in other countries now, and they have a process. And there's several different ones. I went through 3 different things, and each one I just unloaded more and unloaded more. And Natasha, don't you think too? It's a process. You're not just not going to just go in like a car wash and boom, you just come out and in a
It's a transformation. And I find this is how I've witnessed myself going through something is that I have an understanding that I have not been able to release things, but I transform them. I move them into a new knowing. I give them understanding. I give them knowledge. Whatever that situation is that I try to educate that part of me that, let's say, my inner child that was left back when I was left on the bench, right? Well, that shadow work kind of set up some abandonment issues for the beginning of my life. So
yeah,
what I did was is I went back and I talked with her, told her she was loved and I transformed her so that she didn't have as deep as abandonment issues. And and so with that I transformed her to grow up to know that, hey, I'm a woman here who can negotiate a lot, right? And so with that when we transform something, it is about a journey. How can we journey ourselves into a greater self? That journey into saying I'm perfectly imperfect, and I'm doing my better that I can. Just taking ourselves off the gas pedal, really helps us be able to. Because I'm going to tell you, when you're doing the shadow work, sometimes you have to sit by yourself, on the couch, let everybody else go to bed, and just sit in it and go, wow.
yeah,
Wow. And when you can do that and go, wow, for a moment, it's amazing how life treats us a little bit better. It's like, oh, you actually you're actually feeling better about yourself. Congratulations. So we're going to reward that.
Yeah.
It's amazing doing this work. And whoa, that was just a deja vu. Um, you know, giving ourselves grace is one of the first steps. Loving yourself is one of the first steps. Understanding that this is not about a punishment. It's
Yeah.
about supporting you as a human so that we can do better, so we can evolve into a more enlightened human being.
Yeah.
And so with that, it's not a punishment. It's more of a, hey, did you think of this to do better so that you can be more, like for me, I understood that a lot that I was going through in the last 2 weeks that and before that, but it was kind of like the domino, and then it was like kadoosh while I was there, and now I'm stepping into why. Because there's stages of it. There's the stages of shadow work. It's the first telling you, well, we're going to be working on this. This is something that's happening. Maybe you might feel like people aren't listening to you. So you start noticing people aren't listening to you. So that's a pre-teller. Then you're going to have something that's going to happen about how to work through people not listening to you. And then you're going to come up into, hopefully, the awareness of having some practice to practice how you're going to start adding in conversations a little bit differently so you are listened to better, right? And that's just an example. So there's steps to shadow work that happen. Is first you got to kind of know it's getting triggered and be a witness to it, not judging it, hopefully, but being a witness to it, then getting some assistance with it in conversations with others, watching a movie that has some language that you go, oh, I can apply that to this situation,
Yeah.
or, something, YouTube channel, some information, this kind of show, that kind of gives you thinking. And then you have to practice to do better. Towards the end, you have to practice into, knowing, oh, I'm perfectly imperfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you come up to a situation like something that's fighting you, oh, nope, I'm perfectly imperfect. Here
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah. And another way, and I mean, there's, like I mentioned, the Mankind Project. That's one way that somebody can get started doing shadow work. But but there's books out there if you want to try it on your own. Some people can do it on their own, and there's books out there that can kind of get you started and get you going. But another thing is to find a good, compassionate therapist that can help you
Mhm.
too. Just like when people come to me, man, they tell me everything. Matter of fact, I do a lot of therapy for some of my relatives, even, and some of them trust me enough that uh, with that. So I tell them to begin with, your mom, your dad. I'm thinking of kids and stuff sometimes that I help. I says, only you and I. This is confidential. You can tell me
Mhm.
anything. And that really feels good when you can go to therapists and know that it's just between you and them, and they're trained to hear all this stuff, and they're trained
Mhm.
to not be non-judgmental. So it's nice to be able to get help that way. So things like AA, go to a competent therapist. You may have to go sessions for a few here and there until you find one that really sees you, that way and feels that way, and you just, I think you and I all the time, Natasha, because of the amount of time we've done this. I have so many clients sometimes that'll say, I can't believe I told you that. I've never told anybody in my life before, and how good that it felt, and how good it felt for me to hear that and to just
Oh, I feel so
send
honored.
the love back and to just
Yeah.
realize we are about to get this person healed, to get this
Mhm.
person to move on, that way. Um,
Exactly.
I
Exactly.
when I 40s, that's when I got serious about it, and I continue to this day. I don't have as deep of a shadow, but I'm still not. I'm still perfectly imperfect. But when I look back at where I was then and where I am now, I mean, it really makes you feel good when you look back and it's like some major achievement you made in your life. Something to really be proud of. So the first step, and in therapy, they say the very first step where healing comes, that 35% of a person getting better from an issue that they have is in the deciding to get help. Once
Mhm.
you've done that, that's huge. 35% is with the therapist, like if you talk to Natasha or I. And then the other are the modalities, the ways, either hypnosis or you doing readings for them, is the rest of the thing. So it's like a combination of things. So
Mhm.
people watching
Exactly.
today, just be brave. And I'll tell you, friend Natasha and I both done shadow work on ourselves. And if you've got to see our past or something, you might go, "Whoa, that's them," but it's like, we're just in this pot with everybody else. So let's, all here to help each other.
Exactly. And that's the thing is that, like for me, this, time that, when I got triggered, I had to say, Natasha, sit here and listen. This is for your greater good. Sit here and listen. And I want to say hi to, I didn't get a chance to say hi, Veronica and Guy and Patty Black. Patty, thank you. Patty's my friend from down in Arizona. And we did hair together for many years in Seattle. So she's been a lifelong friend too, for myself. And
they're watching the show today.
Yep. And they're all watching today. I got in late, but I will watch the whole show when I can. Getting ready to travel up there. Yes, you are. Her sister lives in my area.
I'll give her a 30-second quick update. We're talking about shadow work, looking at all the junk that you have carrying around you're afraid to look at, and trying to tell people that the way for spiritual unfoldment is to be brave enough to turn around, look at it in the eye, and put it in its place. Realize you're perfectly imperfect. The first step is learning is like looking in the mirror and saying, I love you, I love you, I love you. If you have trouble that way, start loving, love my hands because they move. Natasha has a sneaky way of getting to that, but you want to begin the self-love thing, and then either get some books on shadow work that will kind of help you do it individual, or there's so many of us therapists out there that help people to deal with their shadows. That's what we do in a real non-judgmental way. You can tell us anything. And that, so that's and there's the Mankind Project I mentioned, which helps men. I think they have a program for women now too, because some of the men were so transformed when they started doing shadow work. The wives were saying, what about my junk? Where can I go? Because they see their husbands transformed, like it transformed me when that happened. It transformed me so much that after, I told this once before on the show, about 2 months after I was home, I came in the door and my wife said, Regan, I need to talk to you. We have an issue. And she was very sweet about it, took me up, laid me down next to her in the bed. And she said, Regan, after you came back from that thing you did, the girls and I are having a hard time being around you because you look at us right in the eye and we're having this hard time, and I made me smile because I thought I'd done something wrong and I knew I'd just been transformed and I was on this high. And I told my wife at the time, I said, well, I'm going to have to get you guys to be used to the new me because I'm not going back to the way I was before. And that happened, but you can transform yourself. You start getting rid of this stuff and then you can, it's like someone's like an elephant's been on your chest.
Mm-hmm.
All of a sudden now it's just a bear on your chest, and then it's like a deer's on your chest, and it's like a little puppy is just pressing you down, and then you're free, just letting it go. So that's where we're at right now.
Exactly. And so with that, hi Guy, grateful you're here too. I have tons of that. Yes. So she's got tons of stuff. And that's one thing that I want people to understand, that, every generations comes with some kind of shadow work theme. Yeah. And there's a lot of the generation, let's say our 70, 80 and 90-year-old women who are 100, there's a lot of shame in their shadow work, because they weren't able to speak up when they wanted to. They couldn't be who they wanted to be. They were taught a lot of things. And so with that, as we're working through that shame and guilt, that we got to check into whose truth it is. Because shadow work is about discerning. And if anybody knows what discerning means, or if you don't, it's about how are you to say it? How are you saying things to yourself? How are things, it's kind of like discerning when I get an intuitive message from someone that, it's like, I can't always walk up to somebody and go, hey, your grandmother is saying such and such and such and such, right? So I have to discern, oh, wait a minute, this person really doesn't want to hear anything from their grandmother. They feel very religious, right? So what I do is I walk up and say, hi, I just noticed that you're just got this wonderful smile on your face. And I just want to say that you're loved, or that you're just a beautiful person. And I appreciate you smiling today, or something like that. So that they get the message, but it's through discernment. It's not a full-fledged message. And then there's other times where I get the message. I ask the question, do they want to hear this? And I hear, yes, go to them. and, check in first with them, get permission. But discerning is, how do we do that? But we have to discern ourselves too. What is the information we get with ourselves? And so being more on a proactive path of yourself, instead of being the victim of it. But there's a lot of us that are working through a lot of shame of that isn't ours, and discerning whose truths are we really living in this shadow work is a good place to be, also to really look into that. Oh, it sounds like my dad. Ooh, I sound like my dad. Do I need to be like my dad? No. Well, that's part of the shadow work, is understanding that you might be a little bit like your dad or mom or sister or brother or aunt or uncle or boss or whatever it is, that is hindering you from being your more enlightened self.
Yeah. And what we've learned from the 70,000 people we've had go to the afterlife and back, spend a couple hours on the other side, is the fact that you signed up to go through all these issues mostly. Now you decided you didn't sign up to have an R&R life where you just, as some people do. Occasionally they have so many lifetimes and then they chose a life to just come down and relax, where they
Mhm.
don't have to do too much work. But the majority of us, we signed up to go through these classes down here to learn to love ourselves,
Mhm.
to learn to forgive others and all that kind of thing. So when you look at it that way, it's like, what are we waiting for? We signed up for this class. So it's like when you're in a class and the teacher says, okay, in 2 weeks you have your term report due, and a lot of people put it out to the very last second
Mhm.
to do it. But the thing is, and God doesn't care if it's the last second or whatever, but you're going to like it yourself better if you don't wait till the last second, because once you do that, you're going to have more enjoyable time and have a better, happier life. And, there's a saying too, that you can't love others more than you love yourself. Don't you want to love
Exactly.
your wife or your kids? Don't you want to just imagine how it would be if your heart was totally open and loving to everybody in your life, how that would feel? And,
Mhm.
and when we don't love ourselves, we can't love others, so that's a great motivation, you know.
Exactly, because love also, but I want people to say, when you go into that, love ourselves as others, it's not the melancholy type love I'm talking about, or that we're talking about. It's that love that can get you through the crap in life. It's that love that can get through the crap with somebody else in your life. And when we have that stronger sense of ourselves, then we can negotiate a lot of that, scenarios of what comes to us.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that shadow work is like grief. It never goes away. It's always going to be a part of us. It's a part of our lives. It's part of being human. So the more that we can be proactive with it, the more, and look at those things that are triggering us, the things that are bothering us. Why did I get triggered in this way? Why did I get bothered in that way? Why am I having such a hard time learning this lesson? Why am I having a hard time standing on my own 2 feet to be able to do this type of thing? Why am I always looking for help and support? Well, there's many different reasons. And so, but the more that we can kind of get back to that part of us that, oh, wait a minute, that's my dad's story. I don't need them. Or, oh, wait a minute, that is my past life thing that I was holding on to. The more we can discern away those things, then we can get a cleaner little bit story. Like me, my girlfriend was saying that she wanted me to get an Uber app. And I was like, no, 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 and no, 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 no. And I was like, why am I so, this is part of the shadow work. Why am I so estranged to getting this app? It's just an app. I don't have to call Uber. It's just an app. Why am I so like against it? This is what a shadow worker is. And then my girlfriend kept pushing me. Well, I'm not going to take you to the airport unless you get that out, because you're going to have to take an Uber. She was pushing me every which way to get me to look at that Uber app. And then as soon as I did that, well, I'm into my past lives, like looking in a mirror. And oh, I was in a carriage, I was in these other things, and I was taken, robbed, and I was stolen, raped, and mishandled. And so there's many lifetimes of that. So when I asked for healing on that, did the shadow work, I got the app. I don't know if I'm going to ever take an Uber. I haven't been presented with it. but now I have a choice, and it's kind of like the passport. Once you get a like a passport, then the world knows that you're serious about travel, right? Serious about moving forward, serious about things. It's an empowering moment. For me as a woman, getting that app was a form of me upgrading that part of me that was holding me back because she was afraid of something was going to happen. That is the kind of shadow work we're being asked to do. And we never know what's going to come out of that shadow work. I don't ever know if I'm going to need to use an Uber. But at the same time, though, I understand that helping that life heal something, it was able to shift some of this story that I've holding on to about stepping forward in my own self,
Yeah.
you know?
So as we look at this holistically, a lot of our issues stem from this lifetime. Sometimes they are a carryover from another lifetime. So that's another thing people can do. They can do a past life regression, or Natasha can kind of help do a session for you to see if any of this comes from why you're having such difficulty with a certain thing.
Mhm.
I had a client recently who was having a lot of physical illness, and we went to the other side, and he was able to ask why he has this physical illness. It had to be to do with his hatred for his father. And in other words, a lot
Mm.
of shadow stuff that happened. In other words, stuff that he had to go through with his father and everything. And they just told him, they said, "Look, we will begin a healing, but it will not. Your body will not reverse itself or heal itself until you work on forgiving your father." And that's what he's
Mhm.
in the process of doing now, as hard as it is for him. He wants to get that shadow off of him, that ugly thing that's caused him a lot of things. So
Exactly.
like you say, it can come from a past life. It can come from here. Yeah, and we could do a show. Have we ever done one on fears and phobias? I think we touched on it a few times. Like, why do we have fears and phobias? Because those are roadblocks sometimes that keep us from,
Mhm.
experiencing life fully. You know,
Exactly. Well, there's many different reasons why we don't live life fully.
yeah,
And that could be our stories from as we were growing up. It could be past life. It could be a lot of different things, the way that government tries or the way that society tries to push us down. There's many different reasons why we don't live our life to the fullest, but we're also on this planet to be in the school of life. So
yeah,
what is this here to teach me? I'm not doing anything wrong, but I can change what I'm doing a little bit. I'm going to listen to my body a little bit differently than I have before. I'm going to engage with it differently by saying I love it. So there's some tools on negotiating a lot of this story about the shadow work is like when you first get triggered about it, no, it's a process. The trigger is part of that process of moving into it and saying, "Oh, yeah, I got to look at this, don't I? Okay. Yeah. Okay." And then the universe will bring a couple things in for you so you can learn it and look at it a little differently, right? Okay, yeah, I don't want to look at this, but I'm going to persevere through it. I'm going to persevere through it. And then pretty soon you walk through the door and you're looking at it and going, "Oh, that situation wasn't as big as I thought it was going to be," because the mind likes to disrupt us into our negative self more than we want it to. So for me, when I start learning a lesson and experience, I have to disrupt my disruptor and shift it. What is its trigger? Well, I don't want to, 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 I don't want to learn this. I don't want to disrupt the disruptor. I'm asking for healing on this. I'm asking for healing on this. I'm asking for healing on this, right? So what can we do to change up our language when we're going through these things? Take care of our body, take care of our language, and take care of our mindset of where we're at, because we can fall into depression when we're getting loaded up with
here's
with shadow
it
work.
gives you an idea too. There's this 4-year-old, one of our relatives, and the mom was telling the 4-year-old he'd done something and got caught red-handed, and she says, "You're going to feel much better about yourself if you tell the truth." And little 4 goes, "No, I'm going to feel better if I don't." It's that at an early age, it's hard. Even at an early age, we want to
Mhm.
not tell the truth. We want to like have low integrity in a way, because having to admit that we did something and then deal with it is harder than just trying to sweep it under the rug and lying about it, that way. So as adults, it's a little hard, but people finally get fed up enough in their lives where they go, I've got to do something, because I just, sometimes people wait until the weight is so crushing on them that they can't really function. And
Exactly.
at the lowest point, that's like with addictions and things, you have to crash. You really do. A lot of times you have to get to your lowest. But I'll tell you out there too, now I got to my, I would say close to lowest a couple of times. And then that's when I really surrendered. And luckily I was a spiritual person. Like I tell my clients now too, I have two ways we can go. We can go traditional therapy, and I can help you and you can get through this and everything, but it's going to cost you a lot more and take you a lot longer than if you want to try to do the spiritual route, which includes the physical along with the spiritual, because when you acknowledge that there's more, there's this other thing going on here, there's this bigger picture, that God's involved in it, however you want to look at it, but it's more than this world. And then you do the work, the physical work. I see my clients probably 3-4 times faster. They get through to the
Yes,
other.
I totally agree. I totally agree, because seeing the bigger picture helps, in this whole dance of what we're going through. But most of all, because we're coming down to the end of our time, most of all, I want people to know that it's okay to be human. It's
Yeah.
okay to be kind of fearful about moving forward in life. But what are you going to do about it? Sometimes we have to do things in spite of it. And, what if we were able to do our shadow work and look at it and know that it's not a personal thing, but it is a personal thing? So how can we negotiate a lot of these things? And what I mean by it's a personal thing, it's about I'm the one doing the interaction. I need to learn the lesson. I'm the soul that's down here to do the work, but it's not my responsibility, because sometimes somebody else's triggers are what we're working through in the shadow work. It's not even ours, but we're helping somebody else go through it. So with that, I want people to know that you're loved, and that being human is part of this dance of why we were here. And if we can look at ourselves in the mirror just a little bit and give ourselves grace, you're ahead of the game. You're ahead of the game.
And also too, if you go to a therapist, I would suggest just from my experience, I'd be happy to help you. Of course, Natasha would be. But where I've helped most people in their shadow work is by using these wonderful new modalities that as therapists use that really work. And that's EFT, stands for Emotional Freedom Technique, Havening Touch, and EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization. Like if you have so much shame and guilt over some of the crud you've done before, and you're just having a hard time forgiving yourself, in therapy, these modalities will help you to reach that level where you can forgive yourself and get beyond that. So if it was me and I was having to go through this again, I would seek a good therapist, because I want to get it done sooner than later. But I would do also work on my own. Not wait till the once a week or the once a month is all therapy.
Exactly.
Every day to be doing, like you were talking, Natasha, about the loving yourself, exercises that we do, by doing self-inventory and that sort of thing. So
exactly.
if anybody wants to get a hold of me, I'm at visittheafterlife.com. I have a regular therapy practice which helps you with your, if you want to do shadow work, that sort of thing. And then I can let you know what the spiritual work is that we can include in there too, which can help you to go to a deeper part of yourselves, to sometimes find out the why your life is difficult, spiritually speaking, to maybe get some clarity on why you chose this life and those things to make it easier. And for you to get some wisdom or get some coaching in that from some people on the other side who are much more wise than we are here, so you can do that. So anyway, it's visittheafterlife.com. There's all kinds of videos and stuff on there. It's a pretty good website to get a lot of information on a lot of this kind of thing. And to talk, I know now too, with everything, all the stuff that you're doing, and you're getting more busy all the time, just like I am. And me, I thought I was going to retire at 65. Now here I am at 73, and I'm busier than I was before. But I think I was telling someone the other day, I went to my brother's retirement party over the weekend. He'd had 40 years of working 60, 70 hours a week as a therapist. His practice would see 500 people a month.
Wow.
Therapy. And I don't know how he's just an amazing, his work ethic was unbelievable. And now his son became a doctor, has taken over the business, and he's going to work there 2 days a week. but it just shows you we all have our mission. We all have our thing for
Exactly.
helping people. So I was telling him he's just retiring, and I go, oh, I said, I almost envy you, but I don't. But I said, I love this new work so much. I wouldn't want to stop doing this work.
Mm-hmm.
I want to keep going, probably till I check out, so.
I hear you. I know. I can empathize with that too. It's like this is when you get into the soul calling of doing something, it's hard to put it down.
Often, like if someone comes to you to do like shadow work, I'm sure you can, I mean, with your talents there and with the help from the other side, you can help them identify quickly, maybe maybe help them get some work done at a little faster than doing it by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to support you we each try to teach you skills to do a lot of the work on your own.
Tools. Yes.
Yeah. Because we don't get rich doing this, believe me, but it's what we love to do, and we're here to help.
Exactly. So Regan, how do people get a hold of you?
Visit theafterlife.com, and it's all the things there. There's a contact page, phone number if they want to call me direct on there. And I still, anybody watching this particular show too, if you want to know more about the afterlife, I have 2 books on there that I've written about my experience in the afterlife. Or one's about that, and one's about reincarnation and all the current research being done. If you mention this show that we were talking about doing shadow work, I'll send them to you free, both of them. And
thank you for that.
Versions, yeah.
Yeah, and Guy says we all need help and guidance. Yes, I was with a girlfriend who she was supporting me doing this my own shadow work, so even me doing all the tools that I have, I still need assistance sometimes to get perspectives to enlighten me, to shift it just a little bit to help me go, oh yeah, that's why that's happening to me. Okay, I get it. An outside point of view is always sometimes a wiser gift to negotiate that. I just remembered that I forgot about you guys. Oh, hi, Paula. Yeah, sorry, Paula, we're at the end. Oh, Paula,
Hey, Paula.
you're so. Yeah, no, she just remembered that I forgot about you guys. No, you're good, Paula. You are so good. Thank you for being here. And I'm going to say that there's going to be something shifting up about the shows starting in September. Not too sure yet. Regan and I are figuring this out, but I had some insight come to me. And one of so I definitely need guidance. That's why there's a lot of good podcasts out there today, and I'm grateful that you guys have come to come to this one, because we are so grateful to be here. This is why we do our soul calling, is because we understand that people are people, and we are grateful that we are people to do the work that we're here. So with that I will be doing an announcement exactly more about how the shows are going to be shifting and changing in the next week or two, but it is going to be shifting up. I got a new title for at least one of my shows. Instead of Life Clarifications with Natasha, it's going to be Every Day with an Angel.
I love that. I told several people about that, and they thought that sounds just that title.
Yeah, Every Day with an Angel.
I want to find out how to do that. Because we have that, but we want to be more conscious that we're not walking alone.
Exactly. And my girlfriend showed me a cat with a butterfly on her nose, on its nose, and that's the intention, is to bring the spirit world to the earthly realm.
Right.
So with that, I'm going to be doing that probably around the beginning of September, but I'm not too sure yet how everything's going to play out. So just telling you up that podcasts are going to look different when I send them. I'm going to change the name to the podcast. It's not going to be Life Clarifications with Natasha. It's going to be Every Day with an Angel. And then also, everything's going to be, there's going to be something shifting up. And I have to have a conversation with my partner here to know how it's going to be shifting up. So I wanted to give that heads up. So I'm looking forward to that. Patty says, love that. Guys, send me a message with the dates. I'm not too sure of the date yet on that. It's going to be something, and I will give everybody by next week. I'm going to know what day the show is going to be. The shows are going to be on, or show is going to be on, and that kind of thing. I'm just giving a heads up. There's something coming, and that was the title that one of my shows was going to be.
Yeah.
So,
That'd be good.
Blessings to all. I'm Natasha Venter, angeliclarifications.com. I am one who loves to be here to support you go through your dance of life. And sometimes it's to the dance of music we don't really like, but how can we make it a danceable music, right? So that's a metaphor for life. So how can I help you? I'm here to support you in many different ways, doing my DNA work that I do. I just have done several DNA sessions with people, and they're going, oh my gosh, Natasha, so much has clicked into why I've been doing what I've been doing. I didn't realize that my great grandfather set this in motion for me, right? And now coming back, healing this, it's been, oh, I'm feeling blessed. And then there's some past lives that pop up too sometimes when I'm doing that. So I'm having grateful help with that, and just daily, everyday sessions. I am so much here to be with you. So
Yeah.
angeliclarifications.com. On Wednesday, what am I going to be talking about? I haven't come up with that yet. There's been a lot of changes and shifts, and I haven't got my footing on the ground yet about going through life-altering. I think I did this last week, but going through life-altering experiences. How can we negotiate going through those life-altering experiences? And I think that if I talked about it already, I want to add more to it. So with that, sold my house, got an RV, things are coming together. Yay, Paula! Congratulations!
From Florida?
Yeah, she's moving to Florida and wanting to move to Arizona. Congratulations, Paula, because I know
just got excitement in my gut here thinking she's
well, I know that Paula, you were talking about that your house got offers last Wednesday, or last Monday. So yay for you, Paula. I'm so grateful.
Just before you go, I think I said last time, before you go on your trip, have someone check all your hoses. Make sure you're not going to have a hose pop in the middle of the desert or something. Just give it a once over. Make sure that your thing is solid, because sometimes when you buy things, they don't always tell you everything that's wrong. But it's good that, even if you have to spend, $100 or $200, have someone check it out really good. Go underneath, look at, make sure everything's good.
Yeah, and not the one that sold it to you.
Be sure to carry an extra couple jugs of water in there with you in case you get overheated or something, or just for you, if your car gets stranded, you don't want to be out in this heat. Someone the other day measured the heat inside this car. Someone left their pet in there, and somehow or another they measured the temperature inside the car. It was 240 degrees, and it was like 100 and something outside, but it was like, that pet didn't last very long at all. So, and us humans are in those cars. If you lose your air conditioning, you're out in the middle of Arizona or something now on your trip, you got to have plenty of water with you.
Oh, may I'm asking for divine healing on this. Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck. Tell us when you get to I'd be neat if she's telling us when she gets to Arizona and what it's like, and
yeah, she says that the Girl Scout in me should be good, and I'm so proud of you, because I know that you're good about doing things in spite of it.
It would be good to get AAA. I tell you, because I travel a lot in my Sprinter van, and that has saved me 3 times in the last year, where I thought everything was good in middle of nowhere. I had to get towed 120 miles one time, and it would have cost me like $400 if I had to pay for it. And I think I paid $120 a year or something like that for AAA, and they'll the one where they'll tow you up to 200 miles. So.
Well, I'm getting a feeling intuitively that you're going to be good.
Right.
But Regan's also intuitive, so it's like I would listen to the plan A, plan B, plan C. But may the angels be traveling with you, my dear. May angels be traveling with you through this shift and change that you're going to go through, and may you know that you are so loved, and love everyone here. Thank you, everyone, for showing up today. We'll be here on Wednesday talking about going through life-altering experiences and going through that dance of why are we there doing those life-altering experiences.
Yeah.
So blessed be to you, Natasha Venter and Regan Forston. See you on Wednesday. The advice noted. Thanks. She says, blessings to everyone. Yeah. Bye now.
Bye.